Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here with Brian Fleischer. We're going to talk about the team that does grading. I had a great team when I was in charge. I've been gone for a while, and many of the people who were there when I was there are gone, but Brian has been a fabulous carryover, and he's going to tell us about the old days as well as the new days. Probably a then and now episode of back when he started, when I was around, and then to now, and how the team works together. Because I promise you, listeners, that putting out a price guide is very complicated. It's a labor of love, but it's absolutely a labor. Other sponsors we have besides Beckett Media and Beckett Grading and Authentication, the price guides, the comic book grading, all the stuff that Beckett Media does. ComC, where I actually am a customer of that service and enjoy a little bit of buy-in, a little bit of selling, and it's they make an excellent environment for me to transact some cards. Burbank Sports Cards, Mike's Stadium Sports Cards, a couple of great card shops. Heritage Auctions, been a customer of theirs. Huggins and Scott Auctions, customer as well. And then Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck. I have all their cards, not all of their cards, but I have cards from all of those companies. So, Brian, welcome. So glad you are with the company and are an element of continuity from the then to the now. So what was it like in the camaraderie and the esprit de corps of the price guide guys when you came, which wasn't necessarily the golden age, but it was very interesting times in those years, and then to now, and how now you're in charge and part of the keeper of that carrying on that history.
Yeah. So I started at Beckett in 2003. It was just before you sold the company.
Yeah. Sold early 05.
Early 05. So I was May of 03, hired by Bill Sutherland and Dan Hitt, of course. Bill Sutherland is still here with the team.
Yes.
At the time, the pricing team was about 15 guys.
I think.
It could have been, we had 2 or 3 guys on each sport, depending on which sport. And it really was, at the time, if you look at it now, kind of a who's who of the hobby. Grant Sandground was the baseball editor at the time. Now
gone on to great success at Upper Deck.
At Upper Deck. We had Tim Trout and Keith Hauer, both who have gone on to brand manager roles at Panini. We had Gabe Harrow, who was a really, really sharp guy, who was about my age and working on baseball and really knowledgeable of minor league cards and baseball.
You know, I bumped into him at a show.
You did?
Yeah, this summer.
He recently got back in.
He surfaced.
It
was summer.
He watched the Netflix documentary.
Does
he really?
Same, yeah.
Jack of all trades. He watched the documentary, the baseball card documentary, and he sent me a message on Twitter and showing me his cards, that he pulled out his cards and started messing around with his cards again. So, we had Clint Hall and Al Muir were in the department.
And the hockey guys.
Yeah, the hockey guys. They both were with Panini for a time. So it really was. It was a good group of guys.
Group, yeah.
Over the years, we've transitioned down to about 8 guys. I'm sorry, we're down to 7 guys now, including Daniel Moscoso, who runs our digital studio. He'll process between close to 100,000 card images, and he does photos for BGS. He'll take scans of BGS. Wow. He does scans of comic books. Beckett Auctions, when we were doing the auction service, he shot almost all the cards for auction. He's been with the company. He's an old school guy. He's been with the company 25 something at least.
He was there in 92,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, he's been here forever.
So that's 20, what is it, 26, 25 or 26.
Yeah, he's been here for a very long time. We've got a really good group now. And what I like about the group that we have now is that everybody is really into the sport that they are working on. For example, with Matt Bible, who works on our non-sports and gaming, and he is the perfect guy. He's really into pop culture and Marvel movies, he's does an amazing job at.
He was Doug Cale.
Exactly.
Back in the day, yeah.
And he actually came in as a sports analyst. And that's what we hired him for. And on the first day, we had some turnover at the non-sport position, non-sport gaming position, and we kind of unfairly surprised him, Dan and I,
really?
on day one, saying, "Hey, we've got an opening for the non-sport. We know we hired you as a sports analyst.
We are baiting and switching now."
And to make it worse, he moved from Ohio to come down to Texas to work. Now, we weren't making him do it, but we said we offered him the position, and
well, it became an important position, I'm sure.
Yeah, he jumped right into it.
A lot of action in that part of the hobby now.
Absolutely.
It's not what I'm covering in the podcast, but I love it, the fact that you're doing that.
Yeah,
That's
non-sport and gaming, he his goal is to make it the best database in the entire world. He says that all the time.
Oh, cool.
So we've got Eric Norton on hockey. Eric is a hockey fan. Of course, he does a great job with the Fat Packs podcast.
Yep.
Sam Zimmer helps out on basketball and baseball. He's mainly a baseball guy, and he does a little help. I kind of force him to do a little soccer work with me.
Okay.
I work on baseball, which I love. Soccer, which I love.
Soccer is as you have time, or what?
Pretty much.
Because there's no magazine, right?
There's not. We do have an online price guide. We don't have many subscribers. We run.
Do you have many listings? I thought you don't have that great a coverage.
No, we'll catalog everything that comes out, of course.
You mean database?
Database, yeah.
But no pricing?
We price a fair bit of it. We're behind on pricing. Mostly it's the new stuff. But we probably have 400,000 cards in the soccer database, 500,000 cards.
I just didn't think that many were priced.
There's the majority of the new stuff is not priced because it's the majority of the time is spent on the core 4 sports. But we do run 2 pages of pricing, give or take, in the Sports Card Monthly.
I'll take a peek.
Yeah. We've got, you talk about old school, we've got Steve Dalton, who was a grader.
I know.
Who's probably been here, let's see, I've been here for 16 years. He's got to be close to 20.
No, he's close to 20.
Yeah, so he was a grader.
One of the first or second wave of graders.
Yeah, so he was in grading for a long time. About 3 years ago, I think his eyes just gave up on him in grading. And in the travel that, the grading team does so much travel throughout the year. It is.
It's intense.
And I think he was ready for a change. And he's a big basketball and comic collector. So we brought him over. And so he does a great job with our basketball price guide. Justin Gruner has been here with us for 6 years. He works out of Houston. He was in the Dallas office. Recently moved to Houston. Well, recently, it's probably been about 2 years now. Moved to Houston, and he works on football. He worked very closely with Dan Hitt for many years.
Dan was the football guy.
Dan was the king of football.
Yeah.
And what I tell the guys, we talk about it several times, that we are the keepers of all who have come before us.
The legacy.
Yeah. So have some pride in what you're doing. Do the best you can. We're not going to be perfect, but do the best you can. You came before, and Grant came before, and Theo Chen, who I didn't know, came before, and all these, Dan Hitt came before, and Bill Sutherland, and Grant Sandground, and all these great hobby people, and I'm probably forgetting people, so if I forgot you, I apologize. All these, Dave Slipka was in our department for a while, Doug Cale, who you mentioned, all these great hobby people who came before us. We're carrying on that legacy.
And who were each unique.
Exactly.
None of them were exactly the same, but each made a strong contribution. But how does it work if somebody's in Houston?
We can do a lot
manager.
We can do a lot of. We talk almost every day.
Okay.
Technology is awesome. He can log into the price guide from home. Okay. He can log into via Skype.
Is he the football editor?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep, he is. Yeah. So he's accesses his email. It works remotely. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
It's not something that we would do with a new hire.
It's not so hard to replace somebody.
Exactly.
I mean, again, it's not impossible to replace somebody. But if you're just on the spot and somebody quits one day, it's hard to have somebody step in the next day.
Correct.
And people, I've always felt, and I tried to explain that to my successor people after I was old, that it's not just a sharp person. You need a sharp person that has a lot of integrity, a great work ethic, and the card knowledge.
Yeah.
Because you can't say, hey, take some time to get up to speed on cards. You had to live it.
That's one of the challenges with hiring someone new. We can hire new people on the team, but to get them up to speed. Yeah. When I started, we were talking in an earlier episode, when I started, it was 2 or 3 years before I touched new product pricing.
Right.
Now we've got people, we need to get them up to speed within 6 months pricing a new product. So the training aspect, you have to come in with a certain set of skills if you're going to be successful in this position. You've got to have the right mindset, the right work ethic, like you said, but you also have to have the knowledge of the current hobby. You don't have to be a superstar expert in every single, you can pick that up. But if you are someone who hasn't looked at a card since 2000 or 1985 or 1990, even if you're a huge sports fan, it's probably not going to work out for you here.
What I've realized, I'm an accountant in ComC, and I'm realizing that ComC, when they started, they had a relationship with Beckett Media. And it was after my time, but they had a contractual relationship where they could do the pricing there.
Yeah.
And so people could put their cards on ComC, they could see what the Beckett price was, and they could price whatever they wanted to do. And so I actually was part of that a little bit, and so I did that. But then that relationship ended, let's just say. So they won't do that anymore. So now when people put their cards on ComC, if it's a brand new set or an older set, whatever, they just put the card on there. And ComC 99% of the time identifies it correctly, and so it's there. And then the person has to figure out, the consignor, the person that's selling cards, has to figure out now how to price this card. And I just want to, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but it just feels like I have an advantage that
sure
I
you
basically understand. It's like somebody that used to be a grader, then asking him what's the grade of a card.
Yeah.
So if you used to price cards, then you kind of know that, hey, this is probably going to be not to the exactitude of this is exactly X dollars, but this is going to be a little bit more and all that stuff. And I'm just thinking, wow, I'm just wondering if there aren't people that are going through that are power users, or that's probably what you're looking for. Somebody's a power ComC user, or somebody super well versed with eBay.
And there are a lot
that are going to apply here, and you're going to say these people get it.
Yeah,
because they're not going to make egregious mistakes.
Correct.
They might. We're saying the same thing.
There are a lot of sharp dealers and collectors out there. A lot of them are doing it on their own and making good
first
money.
Month, there's new products coming out all the time.
Absolutely.
We're going to wait a month.
Exactly. Our marketplace dealers can do the same thing that you talked about, the relationship we used to have with COMC. Yeah. So they can use the Beckett pricing to automatically price their cards on the marketplace.
Yes.
So they can set it to 100% of book, 50%
exactly.
of any of that. Now, before they can do that, of course, we have to have the pricing in there. So there are plenty of dealers. Rob Veras will price products before. A lot of them, if you have enough knowledge, and even we can do this, you can pre-price a lot. You know that a Topps base card is going to be a 30-cent common, and you can, your semi-stars are going to be 40, 50 cents. We kind of tighten the ranges since you were running the show. We kind of tighten the ranges in baseball. So, your semi-stars will be 40 cents and your unlisted stars will be 50 cents, and you can kind of build from there.
Well, which isn't a big deal, unless you're factoring in the fact that that's the base multiplier for these other parallels and things.
Correct.
Then what does it matter whether it's 30 or 40 cents?
Exactly.
It doesn't, but, we're on the same page here. It's still tricky. It's just not, it can't be formulaic. But there are some relationships that hold true most of the time. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you need a lot more than 6 or 7 or 8 people.
Yeah.
You'd need the number of, and Dan, to his credit, was the not a prognosticator. It wasn't even a prediction. He said every year there's all these new sets coming out. Unless we purge or synthesize or shrink things down, we're going to have a telephone. Listeners, I know you don't know what a telephone book is, but it used to be this really thick thing that had really thin paper, and that's where we were heading.
The baseball almanac's at 1,300 pages, 1,340, I believe.
Scary.
And we've cut out a lot of the programs and World Series tickets. A lot of the minor league singles outside of the stuff that like Topps Heritage Minors is still in there. A lot of the Leaf product is still in there. But the Frisco Rough Riders team set, not in there anymore. Yeah. There's just we've had this discussion with Mike Payne last week with all our books. There's the products now. In annual book form where we run complete checklists of stuff that we price.
It's too big to bind, maybe.
It's getting close. It's getting close for baseball, the baseball almanac. We still have some room in the other sports, but, to go 440 pages or something for the football book, it's getting tight. Right. Real tight. Every time the pre-press team comes back and says you're 50 pages long, and we can't shrink the font anymore. We can't remove any more images.
I can't see it as it is now.
It's tough. We understand. It's tough. So then we cut stuff, and then people complain that we cut stuff. So we're really kind of between a rock and a hard place on this.
Yeah. Well, you are. I'm not.
No, yeah.
I'm retired now, so I
just get to observe and comment on it.
Stay in between that rock and hard place, Brian, and just keep up the good work. But my hat's off to you. It's a hard job. I would say I know how hard it is, but what I know was a job that was really hard. That's not even as hard as the job you have now. So it's really tough.
You had different challenges.
Persevering. Not that we have challenges, but the job keeps getting bigger. Mm-hmm. It keeps getting bigger. Even if the resources increase, which they're not, the job keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, but didn't you have to have guys on the phone with dealers and opening surveys and going through surveys and you had smaller products. We got a million releases.
At our peak. We were getting 1 million pieces of mail a year.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you had your own challenges. It was just different. You had a bigger team, of course, but you didn't have the technology, and you had, it was a smaller market in terms of number of product and how complex the products were. But it wasn't.
Well, the again, and listeners can be happy. Next year will be even worse or better in the sense there's going to be some new exciting products.
Yeah.
And I know. Let's end on this note that basically you're covering the whole hobby. But there's a lot of emphasis on really trying to get these new products right.
Yeah,
and that's important because that's part of the lifeblood of keeping the hobby dynamic. There's definitely movement, and thankfully it's been mostly upward on some of the older elite kinds of things.
Yeah.
but there's a lot of energy in the new product.
That's where all the excitement is. Yeah. It's an exciting time in the hobby. We're doing really well. The card companies are doing really well. The market is really strong. It's not going to last forever, of course, but I think we're really riding this wave of the hobby's cool again. People are making a lot of money in the hobby. A lot of dealers, a lot of collectors. Grading is huge, of course. The auction houses are doing well. The vintage market is really strong.
Right.
We're really excited for basketball with Zion, and it's going to be. I think we've got a few years left in us. Hopefully more, but like you said, like you've experienced, there's ups and downs in this hobby, just like there are in everything.
We're out of time, but I hope you've got a lot more years in this, Brian. Thank you for your hard work, and if you ever feel underappreciated, just give me a call.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Dr.
I will
Beckett.
sing your praises. But thanks, Brian. Thanks, listeners. Be back again tomorrow with another episode.